The forest swallowed her whole on the night before her 9th birthday. Anna Lightvale stood at the edge of the ancient woods, her small hand clutched in her mother's trembling grip, watching the darkness breathe between the trees. The wind carried whispers of things unseen, of prophecies spoken in blood and fear, of a child who would never shift, who would bring kingdoms to ruin. She did not know, could not know, that the child in those whispers was her. Lillian Lightvale's heart was breaking in 1,000 silent ways. Her daughter, her precious girl with hair like moonlight and skin like winter snow, stood beside her in a crimson dress that seemed too bright against the gathering shadows. Anna's eyes, wide and trusting, looked up at her mother with a question she could not yet form into words. "Why are we here? Why does your hand shake so? Why do you look at me as if you are already saying goodbye?" The answer lived in the prophecy that had haunted Lillian's dreams for months. A child will come, who bears no wolf within. Before the 9th year turns, this child will stand as a curse upon the kingdom. Sacrifice the wolfless one, or watch all you love turn to ash and blood. Anna was 8 years old. In 3 days, she would turn 9. And still, her wolf had not awakened. Lillian had tried everything. Prayers to the moon goddess, rituals beneath the full lunar face, consultations with every elder who might offer hope instead of condemnation. But the truth remained, cold and immutable as stone. Anna showed no signs of the transformation that marked every child of their kind. No golden eyes in moments of fear, no claws when anger rose, no howl in her throat when the moon called. The kingdom's council had already begun to whisper. Soon, whispers would become accusations. Accusations would become demands, and demands would end in a blade across her daughter's throat, spilling innocent blood to appease a prophecy that might be nothing more than superstition, dressed in ancient words. Lillian would not let that happen, even if it meant giving up everything, even if it meant this. They walked deeper into the forest, where moonlight could not reach, where the trees grew so thick and old that they seemed to remember the world's first dawn. Anna's small fingers tightened around her mother's hand, but she did not complain, did not cry. She had always been brave, her daughter. Too brave for such a cruel fate. Finally, they reached a clearing where a cottage stood, humble and warm despite its isolation. Smoke curled from the chimney like a beckoning finger. The door opened before they could knock, and a man stepped out into the night, his robes the color of twilight, his eyes holding the weight of centuries. Albus, the mage who had been Lillian's friend since before Anna was born, who knew secrets that even the Alpha King did not whisper in his sleep. His face, lined with age and wisdom, softened when he saw them. He already knew why they had come. "Lillian," he said, his voice gentle as falling snow. "Albus, please." Lillian's voice cracked, and she fell to her knees, pulling Anna close against her chest. "Please, you must take her. Hide her. Protect her. They will kill her if she stays. The prophecy, it speaks of a wolfless child, and she has not shifted. And I cannot let them." "Hush." Albus knelt before them, placing one weathered hand on Lillian's shoulder, the other on Anna's white hair. "I know, old friend. I have seen this night in the stars for many moons now. I will keep her safe. On my life, on my magic, on every oath I have ever sworn, I will guard her as if she were my own blood." Anna looked between them, understanding beginning to dawn like a cold sunrise in her young heart. "Mama." Her voice was so small, so fragile. "Mama, why?" Lillian gathered her daughter into her arms one final time, breathing in the scent of her, memorizing the feel of her small body against her chest, the silk of her hair, the warmth of her breath. Tears streamed down her face, hot and bitter and endless. "Because I love you," she whispered against Anna's hair. "Because you are my light, my heart, my everything. Because the world is cruel and unjust, and I will not let it take you from me in the way it demands. This is not goodbye forever, my darling girl. This is goodbye for now. Until you are strong enough, wise enough, powerful enough that no prophecy can touch you. Until you can return and make them see what I already know, that you are not a curse. You are a miracle. Before we begin the story, I want to thank everyone who supports the channel and loves our Alpha King romances. In the pinned comment, you'll find a special selection of the best Amazon audiobooks that inspire our stories. If you purchase any audiobook through those links, you'll be directly supporting the channel and helping us create more stories. Tell us where you're watching from and how old you are in the comments. I hope you enjoy the story. She pulled back, cupping Anna's face in her hands, memorizing every feature, every freckle, every shade of color in those beautiful eyes. Be brave, Anna Lightvale. Be strong. Learn everything Albus can teach you. And when the time comes, when you hear my call in your heart, come home. Come home and show them all who you really are. Anna's tears fell like rain, but she nodded, her small jaw set with determination that should not have belonged to one so young. I will, Mama. I promise. Lillian kissed her daughter's forehead, her cheeks, her hands. Then, before her resolve could crumble entirely, she stood and stepped back, placing Anna's hand in Albus's. Go inside, little one, Albus said softly. There is warm milk and honey cakes waiting. Go on now. Anna looked back at her mother one last time, then walked into the cottage, the crimson of her dress disappearing into the golden lamplight within. When the door closed, Lillian's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the forest floor, sobs tearing from her throat in waves of anguish that shook her entire body. Albus knelt beside her, offering silent comfort, his own eyes wet with sorrow. Will she understand? Lillian choked out between sobs. Will she forgive me? She will understand that you loved her enough to break your own heart to save hers, Albus said quietly. And yes, Lillian, she will forgive you. Because that is who Anna is. That is who she will become. Lillian stayed in the clearing until dawn began to paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. Then, with the weight of 1,000 sorrows pressing down on her chest, she walked back through the forest, back toward the kingdom, back toward a life that would feel empty and hollow without her daughter's laughter filling it. Behind her, in a cottage at the edge of the world, a little girl with white hair sat by the window, watching her mother disappear into the trees, her small hand pressed against the glass. She did not cry anymore. She had made a promise. And Anna Lightvale always kept her promises. The years passed like water through cupped hands, swift and precious and impossible to hold. Albus proved to be more than a guardian. He was a teacher, a father, a friend. He woke Anna before dawn each morning, training her body as rigorously as he trained her mind. She learned to move through the forest like smoke, to fight with blade and staff and bare hands, to read the language of wind and stars and growing things. She learned magic, too. Not the simple cantrips that common wolves sometimes wielded, but deep magic, old magic, the kind that pulsed in the earth's bones and sang in the spaces between heartbeats. Albus taught her to feel the threads of power that wove through all living things, to pull them, shape them, bend them to her will. Anna was a brilliant student, hungry for knowledge, tireless in her practice. But more than that, she was kind. She spoke to the birds that nested in the eaves of the cottage. She tended the garden with gentle hands. She never forgot her mother's face, never stopped believing in the promise of return. By the time she was 13, she could best Albus in combat 3 times out of 5. By 15, she could summon fire that burned in colors that had no names, could heal wounds that should have been mortal, could see truths hidden in lies. By 17, she moved with a warrior's grace, and a mage's precision, her white hair flowing behind her like a banner of starlight, her body lean and strong and alive with power. She still wore red, always red. In memory of the dress she had worn on the night her world changed, in preparation for the day she would return, and she still had not shifted. The Wolfless one, they would have called her in the kingdom, the cursed child, the abomination. But here, in the deep forest with Albus, she was simply Anna. Strong, fierce, capable Anna, who could split mountains and mend broken wings, who laughed like music and fought like thunder. On the eve of her 18th birthday, Albus found her sitting on the cottage roof, staring at the stars with an expression he had come to know well. Longing, determination, barely contained restlessness. "You feel it, don't you?" he asked, settling beside her with a soft grunt. "The pull toward home." Anna nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving the distant horizon where, beyond countless trees and hills, her mother's kingdom lay. "Every day it grows stronger," she admitted. "Like a thread tied around my heart, pulling tighter and tighter. I dream of her, Albus. I dream that she is calling me, that she needs me, that something terrible is happening, and I am here, safe and hidden, while she suffers." Albus was quiet for a long moment, his ancient eyes reflecting starlight. "There is truth in dreams, especially for one with your gifts," he said finally. "The kingdom is in turmoil, Anna. I have felt the disturbance in the currents of magic, seen the signs in the flight of crows, and the behavior of the wind. The Alpha King, Jaxiel Iridium, has fallen ill, a sickness that no healer can cure, no medicine can touch. And where there is weakness in the crown, there are always those who seek to seize it for themselves." Anna's hands clenched into fists, power crackling like lightning across her knuckles. "Then I must go." "You are ready," Albus agreed. "More than ready. You have become everything your mother hoped you would be and more. You are a warrior without equal, a mage of extraordinary power. But Anna, you must understand what awaits you. The prophecy has not been forgotten. There will be those who remember the wolfless child, who will look at you and see only the fulfillment of ancient fear. You will face not only external enemies but internal ones as well." Anna turned to him, her face set with resolve that reminded him so much of Lillian it made his heart ache. "I know, but I cannot hide forever, Albus. My mother gave up everything to protect me, to give me time to grow strong. Now I am strong. Now it is my turn to protect her, to save the kingdom she loves, to face whatever fate has written for me. I am not afraid." Albus smiled, pride and sorrow mingling in his expression. He reached out and touched her cheek, a gesture of blessing and farewell. "You never were, little star. You never were." They sat together through the night, teacher and student, guardian and ward, watching the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance. When dawn broke, painting the world in gold and amber, Anna stood, her crimson dress rippling in the morning breeze, her white hair catching light like snow in sunshine. "Will you come with me?" she asked. Albus shook his head gently. "This is your journey, Anna, your story to write. But I will be here, always, should you need me. The magic we share connects us across any distance. Call, and I will answer." Anna knelt before him, taking his weathered hands in hers. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything. For being my teacher, my protector, my father in all the ways that mattered. I will make you proud." "You already have," Albus replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Now go. Go and be the light your name promises. Go and show them all what true strength looks like." Anna rose, turned toward the path that would lead her out of the forest, and began to walk. She did not look back. Looking back was for those who doubted their course. Anna had never been more certain of anything in her life. The journey took 5 days. She moved swiftly through terrain that would have daunted lesser travelers. Her body hardened by years of training, her senses attuned to every shift in the world around her. She felt the land growing sicker as she approached the kingdom, the wrongness in the air like a fever, like infection spreading from a wound left untended too long. On the afternoon of the 5th day, she crested a hill and saw it spread before her. The kingdom, her birthplace, the home she barely remembered but had never forgotten. It was under siege. Smoke rose from burning buildings. The clash of steel rang through the air. Wolves in their shifted forms, massive and snarling, tore through the streets, their eyes wild with bloodlust. The rival pack, Anna realized. They had come to claim what the illness of the Alpha King had left vulnerable. Something primal and fierce awoke in Anna's chest. These were her people, whether they knew her or not. This was her mother's home, and no one would destroy it while she had breath in her body and power in her veins. She descended the hill like vengeance clothed in red. The first enemy wolf that lunged at her found itself frozen mid-leap, encased in ice that formed from nothing, from the very moisture in the air responding to Anna's will. She shattered it with a gesture, moved on without breaking stride. 3 more came at her as one. She danced between them, her movements liquid and precise, each strike of her hands sending crackling energy through their bodies, dropping them unconscious before they could even howl in surprise. The kingdom's defenders, bloodied and exhausted, stared in shock as this white-haired woman in crimson moved through the battlefield like a force of nature, felling enemies with magic and martial prowess that seemed impossible, inhuman, divine. "Who is she?" one warrior gasped. "An angel," another whispered. "The moon goddess has sent us an angel." Anna heard them but did not respond. Her focus was absolute, her purpose clear. She cut through the rival pack's forces like a blade through water, unstoppable, relentless, until their leader, a massive gray wolf with scars across his muzzle, shifted back into his human form and stared at her with something between fear and awe. "Retreat," he snarled to his remaining fighters. "Retreat now." They fled, disappearing into the forest beyond the kingdom's borders, their invasion shattered by the arrival of a single woman who fought like a legion. Silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the groans of the wounded and the crackle of dying fires. Anna stood in the center of it all, her chest heaving with exertion, her hands still glowing faintly with residual magic. The kingdom's warriors approached her slowly, cautiously, as one might approach something sacred and strange. "Thank you," their captain said, dropping to one knee. "You saved us. You saved all of us. Who are you?" Anna looked at them, these men and women who had fought to defend her mother's home, and felt something warm and fierce bloom in her chest. "Take me to the Alpha King," she said, her voice ringing with authority that brooked no argument. "I can heal him." The captain's eyes widened. "The king is beyond healing, my lady. Every physician, every healer, every magic user in the kingdom has tried. The sickness, it is like nothing we have seen before. It consumes him from within. He has perhaps days left, maybe hours." "Then we must hurry," Anna said simply. "I am not like every healer you have seen before. Take me to him, now." They took her, through streets still smoking from battle, past citizens who emerged from their homes to stare at the white-haired warrior in red, through the gates of the palace that stood at the kingdom's heart, grand and beautiful, despite the shadow of tragedy that hung over it. Anna felt her pulse quicken as they climbed the stairs to the royal chambers. She had never met Jaxiel Iridium, the Alpha King, but she had heard stories. A warrior of legendary skill, a leader who commanded loyalty and respect, a man who was both fierce in battle and just in judgment, and now, dying. The doors to his chamber opened, and Anna stepped inside. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the daylight, candles burning low. The air smelled of sickness and herbs and the bitter taint of failing magic. And there, in the massive bed draped in furs and silks, lay the Alpha King, Jaxiel Iridium. Even ravaged by illness, he was magnificent. Tall, his frame still powerfully muscled despite the wasting effects of his condition. His hair, black as midnight, fell long across the pillows, tangled and damp with fever sweat. His beard, equally dark, framed a face that might have been carved from stone, all hard angles and masculine strength. His chest, bare above the blankets, rose and fell in labored breaths. But it was his eyes that captured Anna's attention when they opened, unfocused and glazed with pain. Even dulled by sickness, they held something compelling, something that made her breath catch in her throat. "Who?" he rasped, his voice a shadow of what it must have been in health. "Someone who can help you," Anna said softly, approaching the bed. She felt the eyes of the advisors and healers who filled the room, watching her every move with suspicion and desperate hope in equal measure. She sat on the edge of the bed, reaching out to place her hand on Jaxiel's forehead. He was burning, his skin hot enough to hurt, the fever raging through him like wildfire. But beneath the fever, she felt something else, something dark and invasive, a curse woven so cleverly into his body's natural functions that it appeared to be disease. Someone had done this. Someone had wanted the Alpha King dead, and they had been patient and careful in their execution. Anna's jaw tightened. She pulled her hand back, beginning to weave the complex spell that would be required to undo such insidious work. Light bloomed from her palms, soft and golden at first, then brightening to something almost blinding. She spoke words in languages older than the kingdom, older than the forest, older than memory. The advisors gasped. The healers fell back. Jaxiel's body arched off the bed, every muscle going rigid as Anna's magic poured into him, seeking out the curse, wrapping around it, pulling it apart thread by thread. It fought her, the dark magic, tried to burrow deeper, to hide, to kill its host before it could be removed. But Anna was stronger. She had been trained by Albus, had learned from the earth itself, had spent a decade honing her gifts until they were sharp as swords and vast as oceans. She ripped the curse out of Jaxiel's body like pulling poison from a wound, drawing it into her own hands where it writhed and screamed before she incinerated it with a pulse of pure, clean power. Jaxiel collapsed back onto the bed, gasping, his eyes suddenly clear, the fever breaking like a wave against shore. Anna swayed, exhausted from the effort, but caught herself before she could fall. She watched as color returned to the Alpha King's face, as his breathing steadied and deepened, as life surged back into his body with almost visible force. For a long moment, no one spoke. No one moved. Then Jaxiel's eyes opened fully, and they found Anna. The world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. His eyes, she saw now, were amber, shot through with veins of gold, holding depths that called to something in her soul she had not known existed. He stared at her as if seeing not just a woman, but a revelation, an answer to a question he had been asking his entire life without knowing it. "You," he whispered, his voice still rough but growing stronger with each word. "Who are you?" Anna opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, Jaxiel sat up, his hand reaching out to cup her face with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so clearly capable of violence. "You saved me," he said, wonder and something else, something deeper, warming his words. "You came out of nowhere, a vision in red, and you saved my life, saved my kingdom." "How?" "Magic," Anna answered simply, her skin tingling where his palm pressed against her cheek. "And determination. The rival pack is defeated, Alpha King. Your kingdom is safe. You are healed." "Jaxiel," he said, "my name is Jaxiel, and I owe you everything." Their eyes locked, and Anna felt it, A pull, like gravity, like destiny, like the universe rearranging itself to bring them to this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. She saw in his face that he felt it too, the recognition, the certainty, the knowledge that something profound and irrevocable had just occurred. The bond, the mate bond, sudden and undeniable and absolute. Jaxiel's thumb brushed across her cheekbone, his touch reverent, and Anna's breath caught in her chest. "What is your name?" he asked softly, as if her name were the most important thing in all the world. "Anna," she whispered. "Anna Lightvale." Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, or the ghost of it. But then it was gone, overwhelmed by the intensity of what sparked between them. He leaned forward, and Anna did not pull away, could not pull away, did not want to pull away. When his lips touched hers, the world ignited. It was not a gentle kiss, it was a claiming, a recognition, a promise and a vow all tangled together. His hand slid into her white hair, cradling her head, pulling her closer. Her hands found his shoulders, feeling the strength in him, the power that was returning with every second that passed. The kiss deepened, and Anna felt as if she were falling and flying all at once, as if every moment of her life had been leading to this, to him, to the feeling of his mouth on hers, and his heart beating against her palm. When they finally parted, both breathing hard, Jaxiel rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "My mate," he breathed. "The moon goddess brought me my mate." Anna's heart soared and ached all at once. She had not expected this, had not imagined that coming home would mean finding not just her mother, but this, him. A connection so deep and true it felt like coming home to a part of herself she had not known was missing. "Jaxiel," she whispered, testing his name on her tongue, loving the shape and sound of it. He opened his eyes, looking at her with such open adoration that it made her feel powerful and vulnerable all at once. "Stay," he said. "Stay with me. Let me know you. Let me show you what it means to be cherished, protected, loved. You saved my life, Anna Lightvale. Let me spend the rest of it making sure you never regret it." Anna thought of her mother, of the promise to return, of all the reasons she had come back to this kingdom. She thought of the prophecy, of the danger that might still lurk in shadows, of all the unknowns that awaited her. But looking into Jaxiel's eyes, feeling the rightness of his hand in her hair, the warmth of his presence, the bone-deep certainty of their bond, she knew there was only one answer she could give. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will stay." The advisors erupted into whispers and gasps, but Anna heard none of it. She was too focused on the way Jaxiel smiled, brilliant and genuine, the way he pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she were precious beyond measure, as if she were the answer to every prayer he had ever spoken. And perhaps, Anna thought as she rested her head against his chest, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart, perhaps she was. The days that followed were a revelation. Jaxiel recovered his strength with remarkable speed, the removal of the curse allowing his natural healing abilities to flourish. Within 2 days, he was out of bed. Within 3, he was walking the palace grounds, Anna at his side, their hands intertwined as if they had always belonged that way. The kingdom rejoiced at their Alpha King's recovery, celebrating with feasts and bonfires and songs of gratitude to the moon goddess, and they whispered about the white-haired woman in red who had appeared like a miracle, who had saved them all, who now walked beside their king with the bearing of a queen. Anna reveled in the warmth of her mate's presence, in the way he looked at her as if she hung the moon in the sky, in the slow, sweet unfolding of their connection. But she was also discovering the duality that lived within Jaxiel Iridium, and it fascinated her endlessly. In public, he was the Alpha King, commanding, fierce. His presence filled rooms, demanded respect, inspired both loyalty and a healthy measure of fear in those who might think to challenge him. He moved through his kingdom with the confidence of a born leader, his voice ringing with authority when he gave commands, his eyes hard as stone when he dealt with threats or disputes. But with Anna, he was different, transformed. In private, his touches were gentle, almost worshipful. He learned what made her laugh, what made her sigh, what made her eyes light up with joy. He brought her flowers from the palace gardens, listened with rapt attention to her stories of growing up in the forest with Albus, held her close during the long nights, and whispered promises against her hair that made her heart feel too large for her chest. "You are mine," he would murmur, his lips against her temple, her cheek, the corner of her mouth. "And I am yours. Nothing in this world or any other will change that, Anna. Nothing." She learned him as he learned her. Discovered that beneath his warrior's exterior lived a man of deep feeling, of loyalty so profound it was almost frightening, of a protective instinct that would gladly burn the world to ash if it meant keeping her safe. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens beneath a sky full of stars, Jaxiel stopped beside a fountain, turning to face her with an expression of such tenderness it made her throat tight. "Tell me something," he said softly. "Tell me something about yourself that no one else knows." Anna considered, then smiled, a small, secret smile. "I talk to the moon," she admitted. "When I lived in the forest, every night I would go outside and speak to her as if she could hear me. I would tell her about my day, about what I learned, about how much I missed my mother. And sometimes, I swear, I could feel her listening, feel her presence like a gentle hand on my shoulder, telling me I was not alone." Jaxiel's eyes softened impossibly further. He reached up to tuck a strand of white hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her skin. "You were never alone," he said. "The moon goddess was watching over you, preparing you, guiding you toward this moment, toward me, toward us." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist, and Anna went willingly, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. "I am terrified," he confessed quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Terrified of how much I love you already. Terrified of what I would become if I lost you. You have undone me, Anna Lightvale, made me weak and strong all at once. I, who have faced down enemy pacts and political machinations and assassination attempts without flinching, am utterly defenseless against the way you smile at me." Anna pulled back enough to look up at him, her hands coming up to frame his face, her thumbs tracing the line of his cheekbones. "You are not weak," she said firmly. "You are brave enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to love without armor. That is not weakness, Jaxiel. That is the truest strength there is." He kissed her then, slow and deep and achingly sweet, and Anna felt the truth of their bond settle into her bones like a promise carved in starlight. The days passed in a golden haze of discovery and devotion. Anna learned the rhythms of the palace, the complexities of ruling, the delicate balance Jaxiel maintained between strength and mercy. She sat beside him during council meetings, watched how he commanded respect with nothing more than his presence, how his voice could cut through arguments like a blade through silk. But she also saw the moments when the weight of leadership pressed down on him, when decisions carved lines of worry into his brow, when the responsibility of so many lives depending on his wisdom left him exhausted and uncertain. On those nights, Anna would find him in his study, hunched over maps and reports, his massive frame somehow seeming smaller under the burden he carried. She would enter quietly, close the door behind her, and simply be there. Sometimes she would come up behind him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders, pressing a kiss to his temple. Sometimes she would sit across from him, listening as he voiced his concerns, offering perspective shaped by her years of studying magic and strategy with Albus. And sometimes, she would simply take his hand and lead him away from the desk, away from the problems that could wait until morning, to their chambers where she could remind him that he was more than just a king, that he was a man, her man, and that she loved every facet of him. Jaxiel treasured these moments. He would pull her into his lap as they sat before the fireplace, his strong arms encircling her, his face buried in her hair. "What did I do to deserve you?" he would murmur against her neck, his breath warm on her skin. "You existed," Anna would reply, threading her fingers through his long black hair, feeling the silk of it against her palms. "You were exactly who you are, fierce and gentle, powerful and kind. That is all you ever needed to do." One night, he surprised her. Anna had been training in the palace courtyard, practicing the forms Albus had taught her, her movements fluid and precise as she worked through combinations of strikes and defensive maneuvers. She had attracted a small audience of palace guards, all watching with admiration as this white-haired woman moved like water and struck like lightning. She did not notice Jaxiel standing in the shadows of the colonnade, his amber eyes tracking her every movement, something dark and possessive heeding his gaze. When she finally finished, breathing hard, her skin sheened with sweat, he stepped forward. The guards immediately bowed and retreated, recognizing the look in their Alpha King's eyes, the territorial claim that radiated from him in waves. Anna turned, saw him, and her breath caught at the intensity of his expression. "Jaxiel?" He crossed the courtyard in long strides, not stopping until he was directly in front of her, so close she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "You are magnificent," he said, his voice low and rough. "Watching you fight, seeing the power and grace in every movement, knowing that you are mine, it drives me to the edge of control, Anna." His hand came up to cup the back of her neck, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "I want to show you something," he continued. "Will you come with me?" Anna nodded, unable to form words under the heat of his gaze. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together, and led her through the palace, up winding stairs, higher and higher, until they emerged onto a tower she had never visited before. The view stole her breath. From here, she could see the entire kingdom spread out below them. The city with its winding streets and glowing windows. The forests beyond, dark and vast and ancient. The mountains in the distance, their peaks touched with snow that gleamed silver in the moonlight. And above it all, the sky, infinite and star-studded and impossibly beautiful. "This is where I come when I need to remember," Jaxiel said quietly, standing behind her, his chest pressed against her back, his arms wrapped around her waist. "When the weight of ruling feels like too much, when I question every decision, when I wonder if I am strong enough, wise enough, good enough for the responsibility I carry. I come here, and I look at this, and I remember that I am part of something larger than myself, that my choices matter not because of who I am, but because of who they affect." He turned her in his arms, looking down at her with such profound emotion, it made her heart ache. "And now, when I come here, I will remember this night. I will remember you, standing in moonlight, looking at my kingdom with wonder in your eyes. I will remember that I am no longer alone in carrying this burden, that I have you, my mate, my equal, my partner in all things." Anna reached up, pulling his face down to hers, kissing him with all the love and devotion that swelled in her chest. "You are not alone," she whispered against his lips. "Never again, Jaxiel. Whatever comes, we face it together." He lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist, and they lost themselves in each other under the watching stars, their bodies moving together in the ancient dance of mates, of souls bound by destiny and choice in equal measure. Later, as they lay tangled together on the blankets Jaxiel had prepared, Anna traced idle patterns on his chest, feeling his heart beat strong and steady beneath her palm. "Tell me about your childhood," she said softly. "I have told you so much about mine, about Albus and the forest and the loneliness that shaped my early years. But you have told me little about yours." Jaxiel was quiet for a long moment, his hand stroking through her white hair in a soothing rhythm. "My childhood was not easy," he admitted finally. "My father was Alpha King before me, but he was not a kind man. He believed that strength came only through hardship, that love made one weak, that showing emotion was a failing. He trained me brutally, pushed me beyond my limits from the time I could walk. My mother, she tried to soften his edges, to show me gentleness when he would allow it. But she died when I was 12. After that, there was only duty, only training, only the endless preparation to be worthy of the crown." Anna's heart clenched at the pain in his voice, the old wounds that still ached. "When my father died and I took the throne, I swore I would be different. I would be strong, yes, fierce when necessary. But I would also be just. I would protect the vulnerable, not exploit them. I would lead with wisdom, not just force. But I never thought I would find this." He pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. "I never thought I would find someone who saw past the Alpha King to the man beneath. Someone who made me want to be gentle, who made me believe that love was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all." "You are all of those things," Anna said, her voice fierce with conviction. "You are strong and gentle, powerful and kind. You are everything a king should be, Jaxiel, and you are everything I never knew I needed." They held each other as the night deepened around them, two souls bound by the moon's blessing, by fate's design, by the simple, profound truth that they had found in each other the missing pieces of themselves. The next morning, Anna woke to find Jaxiel already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with such tenderness it made her smile even before she fully opened her eyes. "Good morning," she murmured, stretching languidly. "Good morning, my heart," he replied, leaning down to kiss her softly. "I have something for you." He reached for a small box that sat on the table beside them, opening it to reveal a necklace that took Anna's breath away. A pendant shaped like a crescent moon, crafted from silver that seemed to glow with its own inner light, set with a stone that shifted colors like captured starlight. "It was my mother's," Jaxiel said quietly. "The only thing I have left of her. She wore it every day, and when she died I kept it, thinking that perhaps one day I would have someone worthy of carrying on her legacy. You are that person, Anna. You are everything she would have loved about you. Strong and kind, fierce and gentle. Will you wear it?" Anna's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, turning so he could fasten it around her neck. The pendant settled against her skin, warm and comforting, as if it recognized her, welcomed her. "Thank you," she whispered, turning back to him, her hand coming up to touch the pendant. "I will treasure it always. I will honor her memory and yours." Jaxiel kissed her again, deeper this time, conveying without words what this meant to him, this sharing of his past, this trust, this blending of their lives into one. But even in the midst of such happiness, Anna had not forgotten her purpose in returning. Her mother. She had asked after Lillian immediately, learning that her mother still lived in the kingdom, working as a herbalist in the lower districts. But Anna had hesitated to seek her out, overwhelmed by the events of her arrival, by Jaxiel's illness and recovery, by the discovery of her mate bond. Now, finally, she felt ready. She told Jaxiel where she was going, and he insisted on accompanying her, though he agreed to hang back, to let Anna have her reunion in private. His protectiveness both warmed and amused her, this fierce Alpha King who could not bear to let her out of his sight for long. The herbalist shop was small but well kept, fragrant with drying plants and healing oils. Anna stood outside for a long moment, her heart pounding, her hands trembling slightly. 10 years. It had been 10 years since she had last seen her mother's face, heard her mother's voice. Would Lillian even recognize her? Would she be angry, disappointed, overjoyed? Anna took a breath, steadied herself, and pushed open the door. The bell above chimed softly. A woman looked up from where she was grinding herbs in a mortar, and Anna's world tilted on its axis. Lillian. Older now, silver threading through her dark hair, lines at the corners of her eyes that spoke of worry and sorrow and years of missing her daughter. But still beautiful, still familiar, still the face that had haunted Anna's dreams for a decade. For a heartbeat, Lillian simply stared, her hands going still. Then recognition dawned, breaking across her face like sunrise, and the mortar fell from her hands, shattering on the floor in a shower of herbs and pottery. Anna? Her voice was barely a whisper, broken and hopeful, and disbelieving all at once. Anna, is it truly you? Anna could not speak past the lump in her throat. She nodded, tears already streaming down her face. Lillian moved then, crossing the space between them in 3 running steps, pulling Anna into her arms with a sob that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. My baby, my girl, my light, you came back, you came back. They clung to each other, mother and daughter, both weeping, both laughing, both trying to speak through their tears and failing. Anna buried her face in her mother's shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of her, feeling the strength in her embrace, the love that had never wavered despite the years and distance. I missed you, Anna choked out. Every day, Mama. Every single day. I know, sweetheart. I know. I felt it too. Like a piece of my heart was always somewhere else. With you. Hoping you were safe. Hoping you were happy. Hoping that one day I would see you again. They pulled apart finally, just enough to look at each other, to drink in the changes time had wrought. Lillian's hands cupped Anna's face, her thumbs wiping away tears. Look at you, she whispered. You are so beautiful, so strong. Everything I dreamed you would become. Tell me, did Albus take good care of you? Did he teach you well? He was wonderful, Anna said, smiling through her tears. He raised me with kindness and wisdom. He taught me to fight, to survive, to use the magic that runs in my blood. I am who I am because of him. And because of you, Mama. Because you loved me enough to let me go. Lillian's face crumpled, fresh tears spilling over. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. Every day without you was agony, but I would do it again, 1,000 times over to keep you safe. The prophecy, Anna, it still hangs over this kingdom like a shadow. There are those who remember, who whisper about the wolfless child who would bring destruction. You must be careful. Promise me you will be careful. Anna took her mother's hands, squeezing them gently. I will be. But Mama, I am not afraid. I am not the frightened little girl you left in the forest. I am strong now, strong enough to face whatever comes. And I am not alone. As if summoned by her words, the door opened, and Jaxiel stepped inside, ducking slightly to fit his considerable height through the doorway. His presence filled the small shop, commanding and powerful, but when his eyes found Anna, they softened in that way they only ever did for her. Lillian's eyes widened, recognition and shock playing across her features. Alpha King, she breathed, dropping into a respectful bow. Rise, please, Jaxiel said, his voice gentle. You are Anna's mother. That makes you family. No formalities are needed between us. He moved to Anna's side, his hand finding the small of her back, a touch that was both possessive and protective. Lillian's sharp eyes caught the gesture, understanding dawning in her expression. "The mate bond," she whispered, looking between them. "You are mates." Anna nodded, happiness and nervousness warring in her chest. "Yes, the moon goddess blessed us with each other. Jaxiel he is everything, Mama. Everything I never knew I needed." Lillian's eyes filled with tears again, but these were tears of joy, of relief, of a mother's deepest wish granted. "Then you are safe," she said, her voice trembling. "As the Alpha King's mate, no one can touch you. The prophecy, it cannot. They would not dare." But even as she spoke, a shadow crossed her face, and Anna felt a chill of premonition. "What is it?" she asked. "Mama, what's wrong?" Lillian hesitated, glancing at Jaxiel, then back to Anna. "The Council," she said quietly. "They are not like the Alpha King. They are old men who cling to old ways, old fears. When they discover who you are, that you are the child from the prophecy, they will demand, they will insist. I will not let anyone harm her." Jaxiel cut in, his voice dropping to a growl that held the edge of his wolf. "I do not care what the Council demands. Anna is my mate. She saved my life, saved this kingdom. Anyone who threatens her answers to me." His words were fierce, protective, but Anna saw the worry in Lillian's eyes, the understanding born of years living under the shadow of the prophecy. This was not over. The past she had fled was catching up, and soon it would demand a reckoning. The reckoning came 3 days later. Anna and Jaxiel had told no one of her history, of her identity as Lillian's daughter, as the wolfless child. But secrets in a royal court were like water held in cupped hands, always seeping through, always finding cracks to slip through. Someone had talked. Someone had remembered. Someone had connected the white-haired woman who could not shift with the whispered stories of a child who had disappeared a decade ago, just before her 9th birthday, just before the prophecy's curse could take hold. The council demanded an audience with the Alpha King. Anna stood beside Jaxiel in the Great Hall, feeling the weight of hostile stares, the chill of fear disguised as righteousness. The council members, 12 old wolves who had served the kingdom for decades, sat in their high chairs, their faces grave and unyielding. The head counselor, a wizened man named Thaddeus, with a beard that reached his chest, stood, his voice ringing through the hall. "Alpha King Jaxiel, we have grave concerns that must be addressed. Concerns regarding the woman who stands beside you." Jaxiel's hand tightened around Anna's, his jaw clenching, but he kept his voice level. "Speak your concerns." "This woman, Anna Lightvale, is she not the daughter of Lillian Lightvale? Is she not the child who was taken from this kingdom 10 years ago, just before her 9th year, just as the prophecy foretold?" A murmur rippled through the gathered witnesses. Anna felt her pulse quicken, but forced herself to remain calm. "Still, she is," Jaxiel confirmed, his voice hard as iron. "And she is also the woman who saved my life when your healers could not. The woman who drove back the rival pack when your warriors were failing. She is a hero of this kingdom, and she is my mate." "She is also wolfless," Thaddeus countered, his eyes cold and pitiless. "She has not shifted. Not as a child, not as an adult. The prophecy spoke of such a child, foretold that this child would bring ruin to our kingdom. We cannot ignore the warnings of our ancestors, Alpha King. We cannot risk the destruction of everything we have built." "What exactly are you suggesting?" Jaxiel's voice had gone dangerously quiet, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. Thaddeus did not flinch. "The prophecy demands a sacrifice. The wolfless child must be offered to the moon goddess before the kingdom can be safe. We have delayed this for 10 years, but now that she has returned, we cannot delay any longer. For the good of the kingdom, Anna Lightvale must be sacrificed." The word hung in the air like a blade. Sacrifice. Anna felt Jaxiel's body go rigid beside her, felt the rage that rolled off him in waves, felt his wolf rising, clawing to the surface, ready to tear apart anyone who dared threaten his mate. "No," Jaxiel said, and his voice was no longer human, but something deeper, more primal. The voice of the alpha, of the predator who bowed to no one. "I refuse. Anna will not be harmed. I will kill anyone who attempts it." "Then you are unfit to lead." Another counselor spoke up, a woman named Margot with ice in her eyes. "An alpha king's first duty is to his kingdom. If you will not make the necessary sacrifice for the good of your people, then you are not worthy of the crown." Other counselors nodded, murmurs of agreement rising. "We invoke the right of deposition," Thaddeus declared. "By the ancient laws of this kingdom, a council may remove an alpha king who fails in his sacred duty. Jaxiel Iridium, you are hereby stripped of your title and authority. Guards, take them both into custody. The sacrifice will be performed at moonrise." Guards moved forward, hesitant but obedient, surrounding Anna and Jaxiel. Anna felt her own power rising, felt magic crackling at her fingertips, ready to defend herself and her mate. But Jaxiel was faster. He shifted. One moment, a man. The next, a massive black wolf, larger than any Anna had ever seen, his fur glossy as midnight, his eyes burning with golden fire. He snarled, a sound that shook the walls, that sent the guards stumbling backward in instinctive fear. But the council had prepared for this. Silver nets, blessed with suppression magic, fell from the ceiling, ensnaring Jaxiel before he could attack. He roared, thrashing, but the nets held, draining his strength, forcing him back into his human form. "Jaxiel!" Anna lunged toward him, but guards grabbed her arms, holding her back. "Do not hurt her," Jaxiel snarled at them, even restrained, even defeated, his first thought for her safety. "Touch one hair on her head and I will end you. All of you." Thaddeus looked down at them, with something like pity, but also with implacable resolve. "Take them to the cells. The Alpha King, former Alpha King, will be held until the sacrifice is complete. Then we will decide what to do with him. Perhaps exile, perhaps death for his treason." They were dragged away, down into the dungeons beneath the palace, thrown into cells separated by thick walls. Anna pressed against the bars, trying to see Jaxiel, but the angle was wrong, the darkness too deep. "Anna!" His voice reached her, desperate, anguished. "Anna, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have seen this coming." "This is not your fault," Anna called back, her own voice breaking. "Jaxiel, you did everything you could. You were willing to give up your crown for me. That is everything." "It was not enough," he said. And she heard the self-loathing in his words. The fury turned inward. "I am supposed to keep you safe. And I have failed." "You have not failed," Anna insisted. "Jaxiel, listen to me. This is not over. I will not let them do this. I have not survived for 10 years, have not trained and fought and learned, only to die on an altar because of a prophecy that may be nothing more than superstition." "What will you do?" he asked, hope and fear mingling in his voice. Anna closed her eyes, her mind racing, plans forming and discarding and forming again. She could break out, certainly. Her magic was strong enough to shatter these bars, to level the entire dungeon if she chose. But violence would solve nothing. It would only confirm the council's fears, make her seem like the threat they believed her to be. No. This required something else. Something that would prove, once and for all, that she was not the wolfless child of prophecy. But could she do it? Could she achieve what she had never been able to do before? What had marked her as cursed for her entire life? She thought of her mother, of Albus, of everything she had learned and become. She thought of Jaxiel, of the mate bond that sang between them, of the love that had bloomed so quickly and so powerfully it felt like destiny. And she thought of the moon goddess, who she had spoken to every night for 10 years, who had listened to a lonely girl's whispered prayers. "I need you," Anna whispered now, her lips barely moving, her words meant for divine ears alone. "Moon goddess, if you have ever heard me, hear me now. I need your help. I need your blessing. Please, please." The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Anna could hear Jaxiel in the neighboring cell, pacing, snarling, occasionally calling her name just to reassure himself that she still breathed, still existed. She answered each time, her voice steady despite the fear that clawed at her chest. As the sun began to set, painting the dungeon in shades of amber and blood, guards came for her. They were not rough, these guards. Some looked ashamed, others conflicted, but all were obedient to the council's decree. They led Anna up from the dungeons, through the palace halls crowded with citizens who had gathered to witness the sacrifice, out into the central courtyard where an altar had been erected. The entire kingdom seemed to have turned out, faces illuminated by torchlight, expressions ranging from sorrow to grim acceptance, to zealous approval. Anna walked among them with her head high, her white hair flowing behind her, her red dress bright as fresh blood. She saw her mother in the crowd, Lillian's face streaked with tears, her hands pressed over her mouth to stifle sobs. Anna gave her a small smile, trying to offer comfort even in this moment, trying to say without words that everything would be all right. The council waited at the altar, Thaddeus holding a ceremonial blade, ancient and cruel, its edge sharp enough to part soul from flesh. "Anna Lightveil," he intoned, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "You have been judged according to the prophecy of old. For the safety of this kingdom, for the protection of our people, you must be given to the moon goddess as penance for the curse you carry. Do you have any last words?" Anna looked at him, then at the blade, then at the massive moon rising above the horizon, full and luminous and impossibly beautiful. "Yes," she said clearly, her voice ringing out over the assembled crowd. "I have words, but not for you. For all of you." She turned, addressing the kingdom, the people who feared her, who believed her to be their doom. "I am Anna Lightveil," she declared, "daughter of Lillian Lightveil. I am the child spoken of in your prophecy, the one who did not shift by her 9th year. My mother loved me enough to send me away, to spare me from a death I did not deserve. And I grew, in the deep forest, trained by the mage Albus, learning to fight, to survive, to wield magic that flows through my veins like blood." She paused, letting her words sink in, watching faces in the crowd shift, soften, begin to question. "I came back to save my mother, to save this kingdom from the rival pack that sought to destroy you. I healed your Alpha King when no one else could. I fought for you, bled for you. And now you would kill me because of a prophecy you do not even understand." "The prophecy is clear," Thaddeus interrupted, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. "A wolfless child." "I am not wolfless," Anna said, and her voice held such power, such certainty, that even Thaddeus fell silent. "I have simply not yet chosen to shift. But I will now. Not because you demand it. Not because I fear your blade. But because it is time for the truth to be revealed." She closed her eyes, centering herself, reaching for that part of her she had always felt, but never accessed. The part that was wild and fierce and eternally connected to the moon that hung above them. And for the first time in her life, Anna called her wolf. It answered. Oh, how it answered. Power surged through her body, transforming, reshaping, every cell singing with joy and recognition. She felt her bones shift, her muscles restructure, her senses sharpen to impossible clarity. And then she was no longer standing on 2 legs but 4, no longer human but wolf. But not just any wolf. The crowd gasped, collective and awed, as they beheld what Anna had become. She was massive, larger than any she-wolf they had ever seen, her coat pure white, luminescent, as if spun from moonlight itself. But more than that, she seemed to glow, radiance pouring from her in waves, bathing the courtyard in silver light that was both beautiful and holy. A blessed wolf, a moon-touched wolf, the rarest and most sacred of all their kind. Anna threw back her head and howled, the sound both triumph and prayer, both declaration and devotion. The moon seemed to pulse in response, its light intensifying, as if the goddess herself was acknowledging her child, her chosen, her beloved. When Anna shifted back to her human form, standing naked and glorious in the moonlight, silence reigned absolute. Then Thaddeus fell to his knees. "Forgive me," he whispered, his face ashen with shock and shame. "Forgive us. We were wrong, so terribly wrong." One by one, the other counselors knelt. Then the guards, then the citizens, a wave of bodies bowing before Anna, before the truth she had revealed. "The prophecy," Margot said, her voice shaking. "It spoke of a wolfless child. But you are not wolfless. You are blessed. The prophecy, it was never about you. We have, oh goddess, what have we done?" Anna looked at them, these people who had condemned her moments ago, and felt not anger, but pity. They had been ruled by fear, blinded by it, willing to kill an innocent to assuage their terror. "Rise," she said quietly. "All of you, rise. I do not want your groveling. I want your understanding. I want you to learn from this. Fear makes monsters of us all. Do not let it rule you. Do not let it make you into executioners of the innocent." Someone pushed through the crowd, running, desperate. Jaxiel, freed from his cell by guards who had realized their mistake. He reached Anna and swept her into his arms, not caring about her nakedness, not caring about anything except that she was alive, safe, whole. "You did it," he breathed against her hair, his voice choked with emotion. "Anna, you magnificent, brilliant, impossible woman. You did it." She clung to him, feeling his heart thunder against her chest, feeling the mate bond blaze between them like a star. "I had help," she whispered. "The moon goddess," she answered. After all these years of talking to her, she finally answered. Jaxiel pulled back enough to look at her, cupping her face in his hands, his eyes bright with unshed tears and overwhelming love. "She answered, because you are worthy," he said. "Because you are everything good and strong and pure in this world. My mate, my queen, my Anna." He kissed her then, deep and claiming and reverent, and the kingdom erupted into cheers, into celebration, into joy that their Alpha King had been restored, that the threat had been revealed as illusion, that the woman who had saved them all was blessed by the moon goddess herself. Someone brought Anna a cloak to cover herself, and Jaxiel wrapped it around her shoulders with tender care, never letting her stray far from his touch. The council approached, genuinely contrite now, offering apologies and pledges of loyalty. "You are our queen," Thaddeus said, his old eyes wet with tears of shame and relief. "If you will have us, if you can forgive our blindness and cruelty, we would serve you and the Alpha King with all the devotion we can offer." Anna considered them, then nodded slowly. "I will forgive," she said. "But do not forget. Let this night stand as a reminder of what happens when fear overcomes compassion, when prophecy becomes more important than people. Govern with wisdom from now on. That is all I ask." They bowed deeply, accepting her mercy, her mandate. Jaxiel reclaimed his crown without ceremony, without need for ritual. He was the Alpha King. That truth had never changed, could never change. And now, with Anna at his side, he was stronger than he had ever been. That night, after the celebrations had died down, after the crowds had dispersed and the palace had grown quiet, Jaxiel led Anna to his chambers, their chambers now, closing the door behind them and shutting out the world. He looked at her with such intensity, such love, that Anna felt her breath catch. "Marry me," he said, and it was not a question, but a statement of inevitability. "Not because you are blessed, not because you are powerful, but because I cannot imagine existing in a world where you are not mine in every possible way. Marry me, Anna. Be my queen. Be my mate. Be my everything." Anna smiled, radiant and certain, stepping into his embrace. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes to all of it. Today, tomorrow, always. Yes." He kissed her with a passion that set her blood on fire, and Anna knew, with absolute certainty, that this was where she belonged. Not just in this kingdom, not just with this man, but in this moment, this choice, this love that had found her when she had not even known she was searching for it. The wedding took place 1 month later, under a full moon that blessed them with silver light. Anna wore white, the color of her hair, the color of her wolf, embroidered with crimson thread that reminded all who saw it of the dress she had worn when she first returned, when she had saved them all. Jaxiel stood beside her in traditional Alpha ceremonial garb, black and gold, powerful and proud, but his eyes held only softness when they looked at his bride. Lillian wept through the entire ceremony, joy and pride and love radiating from her. Albus had traveled from the forest to attend, his ancient eyes twinkling with satisfaction at the woman his student had become. The kingdom gathered to witness their union, to celebrate the love that had bloomed between their fierce alpha king and the blessed moon-touched warrior who had captured his heart. When Jaxiel and Anna spoke their vows, when they promised to love and protect and cherish each other through all the days of their lives and beyond, the moon itself seemed to shine brighter, as if the goddess was placing her seal of approval on their bond. And when they kissed, sealing their marriage, their fate, their forever, the kingdom erupted into celebration that lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the years that followed, Jaxiel and Anna ruled together with wisdom and strength. They were beloved by their people, feared by their enemies, respected by allied kingdoms. Jaxiel remained fierce in battle, ruthless in protecting his territory, commanding in his leadership. But with Anna, he was gentle, devoted, worshipful in ways that made her feel cherished beyond measure. Anna used her magic to heal and protect, to help the kingdom flourish in ways it never had before. She became known as the Moon Queen, the Blessed One, the warrior mage who walked between worlds of power and compassion. They had children, eventually. Beautiful, strong children who inherited their father's leadership and their mother's magic. And Anna taught them what she had learned, what the prophecy had tried to deny. That fear is the enemy of understanding. That love is stronger than destiny. That sometimes the stories we tell ourselves about who we are meant to be are wrong, and it takes courage to write a new ending. On quiet nights, when the kingdom slept and the moon hung full and bright above, Jaxiel and Anna would stand together on the palace balcony, his arms around her waist, her head resting against his chest. "Do you ever regret it?" he would ask sometimes, his lips against her hair. Coming back, facing the prophecy. All of it. And Anna would turn in his arms, looking up at the man who had become her entire world, her mate, her king, her heart. "Never," she would say, and mean it with every fiber of her being. "Everything I endured, everything I survived, it led me here, to you, to this. I would walk through fire and darkness 1,000 times over if it meant finding you at the end." He would kiss her then, slow and sweet, and full of promises that needed no words. And the moon would shine down on them, blessing them, watching over them, as she always had, as she always would. For Anna Lightvale had been abandoned as a child, declared wolfless, marked for death by a prophecy born of fear. But she had returned, stronger than anyone could have imagined, blessed by the very goddess they claimed she had offended. She had healed the Alpha King, saved the kingdom, proved the prophecy false, and claimed her place not as a victim, but as a queen. And in doing so, she had found something more precious than power, more enduring than prophecy, more transformative than magic. She had found love, true, deep, eternal love. And that, in the end, was the greatest blessing of all. The story of Anna Lightvale and Jaxiel Iridium would be told for generations, a tale of sacrifice and courage, of fear overcome and love triumphant, of a girl abandoned who became a queen, of a prophecy shattered by the very person it sought to destroy. But for Anna and Jaxiel, it was not a story. It was simply their life, their love, their forever. And it was everything. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this beautiful love story. Let us know what you thought of this tale full of emotions and surprises. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story from 0 to 10 if it touched your heart. And if you enjoyed the plot, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the amazing new stories coming soon. See you next time.